Hey everybody, welcome to the Christel Crawford Show. So I think this is season 3, episode 43, something like that. And I am so excited to be here today, like always. I actually really love coming to you guys live every week. It forces me into a few things. First of all, I get to connect with you, which is awesome. It also forces me to really look at the energy and everything that's up. But anyway, if you're brand new to this show, hey Carrie, this is a live talking head show where I pick a topic and then riff all over it using the tools of Access Consciousness. And if you don't know Access Consciousness, let me just give you a brief thing that says Access Consciousness is a crazy, big, wild, weird, wacky world of tools that you can use to change anything in your life. And I've taken myself from being totally capped out, maxed out income-wise at waitress level to multi-six figures in my income. But more than that, I've taken my life from literally not knowing how to deal with my feelings, thoughts, and emotions, and like I was constantly in a mess, to taking charge, just choosing and creating my life. So this is a very quick summary, but these tools have totally changed my life. And hi Frank, hi Leah, hi Ava. And listen, today I called the show how to have your own back with change. So I feel like every show in the last 2 months since we've been in quarantine has started with, hey, there's a lot of change because it's not over. We're still in it. And in the middle of all this change, where a lot of us some of us are like really thriving and just creating our faces off. Others of us are, applying for government assistance. We're all having a different experience in this time. We're all having a different experience in this time. Some of the people I know are still taking very big access classes, which totally changes everything about your world. And the theme seems to be that everybody's in a lot of chaos in one direction or another. Now, I want to talk about that. And if you have a question related to this, or this brings up a question for you in your live, please put it in the comments and I'll talk about it. Hey Erin, hi Irina. So I want to start this episode out by stating that I'm about to contradict a training that I'm going to do later today. So I just started this incredible program called Make Online Sales Your Bitch. And I'm incredibly proud of it. It's really great. I've got a handful of people registered for it. We start today. And hold on, I gotta get my computer to do a thing. So I'm putting together a really cool training on how to clarify your messaging. The reason I'm telling you this is I'm going through developing this training I'm about to do by really studying and distilling down the points of a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And if you are an entrepreneur, I highly recommend that book. Now, so I'm reading this, I'm putting this thing together and pulling out the salient bits and the points, and I'm going to present this. This book has just revolutionized what I think about copywriting and all this stuff, right? And I'm coming up to doing this show. And one of the things that struck me as I was coming up to do this show is that in this presentation on clarifying your message, I'm going to talk to you about making your customers feel as safe as possible about doing business with you, about clarifying and taking the risk out of it for them as much as you can. That customers, when they're about to choose to pay you money, are on the precipice of something. They're on the brink. And you want to make them put big stones in their path so that they feel as comfortable about doing business with you as they can. Now, that's going to go against everything I'm about to tell you, which is that if you are in the creation of a totally different reality with your life, there ain't no comfort in that. And there's no big stones and there's nobody giving you a map. And that's the way it is. And here's why that's fucking good news, right? Here's why this fucking topic is great news. Because you get to choose and create what's next. Now, I was talking to my friend Leanne yesterday, and Leanne has just taken a big access class called The Energetic Synthesis of Being, and it is as undefined as it sounds. And I think that's probably one of the big draws for access classes for a lot of the people that I know, is that they are undefined. It's like you don't know what conversations you're going to get into. You don't actually really know what topics are going to be talked about. All you go in, you choose access classes for the most part from the energy. And that is diametrically opposed to this reality, where you are supposed to and encouraged to choose classes from logic linearity, linear logic reality, right? So, you know, when people teach marketing, they're really like, you know, make the choice as no-brainer as possible, you know, position your offers, and I'm teaching on all of that. Make your message really clear, take the risk out of it. But the truth is that in every choice we make, there's innate risk in that you can't see around the corner till you turn the fucking corner. Sorry. Unless you're wearing a camera that like turns the corner for you, and before you turn, you check the camera, you can't see around the corner before you turn the corner. You have to trust something else. You either have to like blindly choose, which I've done plenty of, you know, blindly, let's just be unconsciously choose, you know, shit that feels good in the moment, or you have to be guided by something else. And the reason I'm talking about this is because we are more than ever in a time where you've either got to, where the comfort is going to come in the choosing to know, be, receive, and perceive. That's actually where it's going to come from. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Lorette. Which is not something we're taught to do. It's not something we're encouraged to strengthen. It's not a conversation I heard in school, right? So like with something like my friend Leanne, who just took this big access class and is coming out on the other side, and there's just lots of tears of transformation, and like, I have no idea who I am or what to choose next, which is where a lot of us are. I have no idea who I am or what to choose next. Leanne's now got to like lean on different skills than any of the reference points that she used to choose from before. And we actually talked about this in our team meeting yesterday. She's like, God, I took this, hey Heather, hey Ockert. So I took this big access class and I came out of it and I'm so undefined now. I actually don't know from what to choose. So everything that she used to choose from before is gone, right? Like she used to choose from the need of money, or not pissing my husband off, or pissing my husband off, or, you know, not wanting to look bad in front of the neighbors, or any and all of the motivations for choice that could have been there before, you know, wanting to be a good mom, wanting to be a good wife. All of those disappear as you are destroying and uncreating reference points to anything, right? So what shows up is a universe of choice, a world of choice and a world of freedom, which I actually think is the thing we resist more than anything else. I think most of us look for something that feels normal, feels solid enough to bounce off of against. And every single time I look at this topic, I think about like, whatever, the story of like Christopher Columbus, whether it's true or not, the story's great. You know, where he set off in search of a new world and all he had was a compass, which is like the basic general direction of this thing I think is in this direction, I think. And I'm going to keep following this general direction until I run into something that feels like land. Now, that's fucking undefined. How long are you going to be at sea? I think we're going to be at sea for like 4 months, so let's just make sure the ship has enough food for that period of time based on my mathematical calculations that I think are correct, right? So it's this, and then once you're on that journey, you are in the middle of an ocean where there is nothing to like kick off from, right? It's ocean. And so we find ourselves so many times right now, like in the middle of this ocean where there's nothing to kick off from. There's no sensation dense enough, right? There's the needs starting to go away. The fear is starting to go away. There is literally just that sense of space and ocean. And so how do you have your own back with all of that change? And what I'm doing is really, really strengthening knowing. And here's what I mean by that. I always have choices that I can make in a day, you know, to whatever, from the tiny ones up into like whether or not to have a conversation with this guy about $1 million business, right? So our day is filled with choice possibilities. And yesterday I got a message from a friend, and I won't go into great detail about this, but the message was basically like, hey, do you want to make some money? It was instantly yes. Now, that's a great example of something that shows up in your life where you have no idea what it's about, you have no idea where it's going to go. You know, you like this person, but if you started to go into the logic of it, you would fuck yourself over. And so in those moments, having my own back is just going yes or no, yes. Okay, good. So we have a conversation. And so now something's in motion. And that thing that's in motion matches the energy of what I want my life to be like. But all of that comes from like the following of what matches energetically, not from logic and linearity. And that right now is probably the thing that I'm strengthening more than anything else. I'll give you another example. So I just launched this business course for the Christel Crawford Academy, which is a new creation that's wanted to be around for like 25 years. And I was like, now's the time, now's the time, now's the time. Well, I did put a ton of effort into it. And we do have a handful of people playing. And if I had looked at the results that showed up and based my measure of success on the results that showed up, I would have judged it. But what I know energetically is that something is getting created here that you can't yet quantify with dollars. And this is what I mean by having your own back with change. If you are addicted to looking at what's occurring out here in the physical world as proof of what is occurring in the generative world, which is invisible, only perceivable, only knowable, only beable, and only receivable. If you are addicted to looking for the proof of that unseen world, then you are going to constantly destroy what it is you're creating. And what I'm finding with a lot of people right now is there's a lot of generation going on. There's a lot of choosing of different futures that you can only acknowledge energetically. There's a lot of different ask happening. There's a lot of people that are, looking at energies and staying present with those. There's a lot of futures being generated right now in a lot of people's worlds, and this is where you have to look at your world, that nobody can validate except you. And you cannot validate an invisible, perceivable, beable, knowable future with outside solidities. Thank you so much, Krista. Hi, Alexandra. So this is what I mean by having your own back. Like, if you choose doubt over knowing, you'll destroy what you've created. And this gets really illustrated with this incredible story that my friend Catherine told me. Catherine has a huge farm out in Saskatchewan, and she's on my team. She's a CF. And one of the many things I love about having Catherine on my team, because she owns a farm, she's a farmer. But she also has all these incredible skills in technology and awareness. But she brings these really cool stories from farming or just from being on her land and her property. And yesterday during our team meeting, she said, yeah, we were talking about this generation thing and this having your own back in the middle of this incredible energetic and life chaos, And she said, yeah, there's this little plant. She's like, for the first time this year, there's this plant in my yard that for the last 3 or 4 years, I was mowing around thinking I should just chop this thing down. I don't know what it is. It's not doing anything. It's kind of scraggly. But this year, that plant did this incredible bloom. Turns out it was a lilac bush, but nobody knew it. She didn't know it. And she's like, and it sort of struck me the other day because I walked out into the yard and I saw these incredible flowers and they're sweet and they're fragrant. And I was like, oh, that's coming from this little scraggly plant that for the last 5 years, I've kept wanting to chop down and I just didn't get around to it. I just kept mowing around it and I didn't do anything from it. And she's like, it struck me that this is what we do with our things, our things, is in the beginning they look tiny and scraggly and they don't look like anything, and we don't even recognize them as the things we chose and are creating and asked for, because they're spindly and they're not as pretty as we thought they would be, and they're kind of in the way. And then 3 or 4 or 5 years later, if we somehow manage to not chop them down and not kill them, they become this incredible thing. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. And that went hand in hand with all this reading I've been doing about generation in Right Riches for You, by the way. If you want an incredible conversation on generation, like go to Right Riches for You, which went hand in hand with the call that I was on this morning with Shannon O'Hara about future, which went hand in hand with the call and the conversation that Gary Douglas and Shannon are having about the future. And so this is a very, very like ADD riff on, and I guess question for you of like, what is it, first of all, that you are currently choosing and generating that you're not acknowledging? And everything that doesn't allow you to just close your eyes and get present with that energetically, will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, online, shorts, poison, beyonds. Now, that's the clearing statement if you don't know what I just said, and you can go to theclearingstatement.com to get more information on that. So that's sort of the first piece. It's like, what are you generating right now that you're not looking at? Hi, Guy. Hi, Ritu. That is huge. That's huge, because if you don't get present with that, if you don't receive that, if you don't receive the benefit of it, you don't even acknowledge it, then you'll destroy it because you can't see it, because you can't use these solid seeing, touching, tasting senses, and so therefore for you it's not real. But it doesn't matter if we acknowledge energy as real or not, it just keeps being real. It keeps being the building blocks of the universe, right? So for me right now, there's a lot required from me internally to continue to know and to receive and to perceive what it is I'm generating and creating that I can't see or feel. Now, and it's very likely that this period in time, that we showed up at this period in time, for something. And what I mean by that is, like, I find in my life that I have chosen the things that facilitate me into becoming or choosing to be the person that I already am, that I already have available to me. And it's interesting to me that we are all here during this period of history looking at and choosing more consciousness. And consciousness is the awareness of everything with no point of view. It's just awareness of everything. So, I mean, this could seem like a very, very theoretical conversation. This could seem like maybe even an irrelevant conversation. Maybe this isn't a money conversation. Maybe this isn't a business conversation, a relationship conversation. Maybe this isn't a conversation about something solid. And my question is, like, is there more going on in your life that isn't solid, where you are looking for something solid to try to understand what doesn't feel like anything? Okay, so that's sort of facet number one of this energetic conversation. Facet number two is to be able to institute and create, hi Rita, and actualize a future that's different than the one before, because now we're, it's different, right? Like, now we're in creation again, all of us, or we're in destruction, but let's assume we want to be in creation, right? So let's, I'm just gonna suspend disbelief and assume that you want to create. So there's this possible futures that we have the ability to institute. So to lead yourself anywhere, you have to go, well, what would it take to be willing to live the energy? What I'd like my life to be, so it can show up for me. And okay, cool. I'm the creator of everything that shows up in my life. Am I willing to just take the choices that are in front of me and go, okay, I've got these choices. If I choose this one, what will my life be like in 5 years? Well, that's heavy as fuck. Okay, we'll take that one off the table. If I choose this one, what will my life be like in 5 years? Is this choice yes or no? Yes. Okay. Is this choice yes or no? No. Never mind with that choice. We're going with this choice. And you begin to lead yourself and institute and actualize the future that you're aware of with awareness. You can't see the future that you can see is the least of what you are capable of having. the predictable future, the one where, we take these courses, and I take lots of them, where it promises us a 5-figure launch in our business, right? And I'm not knocking those courses, because there's a lot of skill, there's a lot of, good stuff in there. But if you don't energetically become the future that you want to have, you can do all the shit and it won't matter, because it's not the doing that creates the future, it's the being of it. And so through being it, you begin to pick up on the things that resonate with what you're being. And that's how actually you make choices, right? We think we make choices logically, and then we try to make choices logically. And many times with logic, we get ourselves somewhere. But do we get ourselves to what would actually be enough for us? Do we get ourselves to those things that, would actually make our whole life and being sing? Do we include everyone and everything in our choices, or do we limit our choices to only the things that we can understand with our very, very limited mind? Do we allow the universe in and everything in the universe in to be with us as we are asking for and choosing the future that we're capable of? And listen, the future that you're capable of is far greater than you want to know. And so, having your own back with change is recognizing that your new reality is undefined. Your new reality is living undefined. That's your new reality. And that can either consistently freak you out, which is one way to handle it, or it can be exhilarating, and it can be the adventure of living. And in that adventure of living, you're gonna have to strengthen different things, strengthen being, strengthen knowing, strengthen perceiving, strengthen receiving. And so, every single access tool in the book is relevant here. And I think for me, the tools that I'm using right now are way more nonverbal. They're way more like, I look at the energy of the choices in front of me, and if that choice does to my future, I go that direction. You're so welcome, Andra. And if that choice doesn't do that, I just don't make that choice. So that level, that way of choosing requires a lot of presence. It requires me looking at the choices I have. There's also been a lot of being with me with no judgment of how or what I'm choosing, because there's a lot of change going on. So like last week for me was a really, really intense week of change. I had a quickie session with a facilitator friend of mine that just rocked the foundation of my reality. Hi, Janine. And I literally was in tears like every couple of hours, just like gales of tears. And I don't cry a lot these days, and not wrong or right, I just don't. So, I was like, it was a melty ass week last week. And so having my back looked like just being with me and not needing myself to be anything different, or anything that I had decided was greater than that, or anything but what I was able to choose and be right then. And that is another facet of having your own back, of like, hey, listen, nobody that I know, hi Neshka, that I know or plays with me in my classes or on my shows or in Access Consciousness is a coward. Everybody that I know is braver than they ever acknowledge. I'll give you an example of this. I have a foundation class coming up in the middle, towards the end of June. You're invited. The thing about foundation is that it's a 4-day class that rocks that foundation of your reality. And that's a lot of what's going on right now for a lot of us in all these different ways, right? The foundation of our reality has been rocked. For me, that's kind of a normal space. For me, that's kind of my new normal. But for some people, that's like, oh my God, like very disorienting, like throws everything into a blender. And what most of us do is we go looking for, after our life's been thrown into a blender, we go looking for the reference points in order to figure out how to choose again, But what happens with access classes, and especially foundation, is that your reference points disappear. You just can't find them. They just aren't there anymore. Last week, I woke up I don't know what I had done. I think I did a full day of body work and bars and then ran some clearing loops, and I woke up in the morning and I was just a different woman than I was the night before. I mean, I'm in a relationship right now with a guy that doesn't do access consciousness. He's a gift, and he doesn't do access consciousness. So, you know, it's different for him. And so I woke up and I realized as we were kind of moving through our morning that I couldn't do the relationship in the same way that I did before. And I didn't know what that meant, but I was just different. Like, I was responding to him differently and different things were coming out of my mouth, and I was like, oh, well, whoever I was yesterday is just gone. And that's what actually came up in our meeting yesterday around foundation. And somebody was saying, well, I don't even know, like, what was your experience with foundation? And like, what did you get out of it? And I was like, I feel like I've made that video. But then I said, but even if I haven't, it's because after foundation, I was really fucked up. And Leah, who's on my team now, she's like, I think I'd actually really like to watch that video, like how foundation fucked me up. She's like, cause I might want to be fucked up, to which, you know, obviously I laughed. But what I mean by that is like, I went into that access class, and, you know, we go into our lives with the pretense that, you know, we're going to come out of some class with a roadmap on how to do this thing called living. You know, I went into this class going, oh my God, I'm finally going to get all the tools, you know, to be happy and to have good relationships. And I did. But they didn't show up the way that I thought they would. And on top of that, foundation like shook apart the limited, minuscule reality that I had been creating my life from, and gave me space to create in. Nobody else ever in the history of my life had ever given me space. They'd given me rules and religion, and, you know, this is how you be mentally healthy, and this is how you do life right, and this is right and this is wrong. They gave me that. And that's how I tried to create my life, and I'd gotten myself there, and it was shit. But for some reason, I thought if I took this other class, you know, I'd come out with like a different kind of a roadmap that actually worked. And instead, what I was given were tools to construct a reality that actually worked for me. What? How do you do that? Well, you choose. What's that? Anybody reckon? What's choice? Like, what do you mean? Well, you can just choose anything. But how do I know what to build? Well, what would you like to build? Well, I don't. And you notice in that energy that, and this is exactly what so many of us are going, is happening right now. We're like, but somebody tell me what to do so that I know that I'm doing the right thing, so that I can at least, what? And the truth is that even if somebody does show you what to do, and I love showing people what to do. That's part of my trainings, you know, my Make Online Sales Your Bitch is I'm going to show you what to do. But Maruna, you're not kidding. Your question is, how do we choose right? And then you said kidding. You're not kidding. That's the question most of us come into it. It's like, well, how do I choose right? And then they tell us, well, there is no right. And you're like, well, how do I know what's not wrong? But there's no wrong. There's just choice. So having your own back is learning how to choose. Now, my favorite set of tools for functioning in a new reality of space and choice, which is what Foundation starts to give you, all the access tools give you, which is what we are in now, by the way, a world of choice and a world of freedom, is the 10 keys to total freedom. And they're confronting, because what every access tool, what every conversation in access is supposed to do is empower you to know that you know. And what we're used to is being disempowered and thinking about what's right. Being empowered and knowing that you know is different than thinking and finding what's right. So you have to look at that and go, okay, cool, I don't actually know how to create this. Like, this is like, nobody's shown me how to do this. And listen, the thing about access classes and facilitators is we don't show you either, we ask you a question. And that's something you have to start being with yourself is, okay, I've got infinite choice in front of me. I can build whatever I want. Well, what would it take to be willing to live the energy of what I'd like my life to be? What would I like my life to be? What if I actually started looking at that and cultivating that sense in my world, you know? And that tool is in Right Riches for You, by the way, that book. And then started choosing from and as that. So having your own back with change is cultivating knowing, cultivating receiving, cultivating being, cultivating receiving, and cultivating choice. And I know no other better tools than the 10 Keys to Total Freedom to do that. And they're not something that you pick up and you read and then you put down. They're something that you like study page by page and then you apply them to your life. And then you, because we have not yet in our lives been in a school of choice. We've been in a school of limited menu. And so now is the time to school ourselves, using every undefined bit of what's showing up right now. And using that to facilitate ourselves into a world of choice and a world of freedom. And will it be comfortable? No. But will it or could it be the adventure of a lifetime? Yeah. Fuck yeah. So, I gotta go. But if that contributed, share it with your friends. And I really encourage you to pick up those books. If you want to, I have them. I have links to them on ChristelJoyCrawford.com/myfavorite things. You can pick them up there. But otherwise, like, happy creating, guys. Like, how does it get any better than this? And I'll see you guys next week.